Hey, so today is Friday, July 26th. On Sunday, I lose my qualifications to fly the Boeing 777 because I haven't landed it 3 times in 90 days. So tomorrow, I go to the simulator. Today and yesterday, I'm studying. Why am I studying for an airplane I already fly? Great question. Because it's not just landing in the sim. Like, I truly thought I was going to go to the simulator and just do 3 touch and goes. That's not how it works. Uh, it'd be easy, right? No. And when you go to an airline, nothing is hidden. Like the training, it's all on my iPad. I can't show it to you because stuff. But I had the entire event, what's going to happen on my iPad. And so I'm reviewing the slide presentation now, and I've been playing on my flight sim at home, just, going through the pushing motions. And what I'm expecting is to everything's be done in JFK. I'll be taking off on 3-1 left, do a full VFR pattern, no all pod on, come in and land. Then I will take off again, get vectors around, and I'll do a RNAV approach. That one I use all pod for RNAV Yankee 4 left. Then I will imagine do a go around, and I bet, oh no, I have to touch the ground. So probably to a full stop, and then take off again. Yes. Lose an engine, V1 cut. Take off, come back in, and do an ILS 4 left approach, land, and then I'll be done. And I say all that because, again, you might be wondering, why am I sitting in my car talking to my camera? I am taking my kid to a band thing. So I was watching some, this is Car Pod. I love Doug DeMiro. He's a great guy. Um, and I use this time to study. So that's why I'm sitting in my car, because I have to sit in she has to go, she'd be here 45 minutes early. So I had to bring her here. I'm going to study, go inside, watch her band presentation, and then take her to another school. Because if you're a parent, you know that you are just a glorified Uber cab driver for your kids, especially in the summertime. Let's see. But again, there's 30 slides here, and it tells me everything that's going to happen. Of course, now I can't fast forward because it's being stupid. Let's see. How do you go next? But on the slide presentation, it tells me about crosswind limits, a hand flown visual pattern and landing, missed approach. So I'll probably go missed at some point, right? And how to do go around. And then it goes to what we call a non-ILS in the airline, at my airline, on my fleet. There's ILS and non-ILS. So it talks about non-ILS. It mentions on that GPS Yankee 4 right. Oh, and ILS 4 right. I said 4 left. It's 4 right. Everything we do to set up for the approach, right? Again, in the airline world, almost every single approach is a visual backed up by the ILS. Like, it's been that way for 17 years. Almost every approach is visual, backed up by the ILS. So we're going to do an RNAV approach because we don't almost never do them in the real world. It's just not common. So talks about the landing rollout, takeoff engine failure, engine out SID. Like some places we fly to, there's a published missed approach procedure. Well, if the airplane can't do it, then we have to have an alternate missed approach procedure. So we have and if you think about, going into New York, especially going toward, let's see, 3-1 left and 3-1 right, there's buildings that downtown, right? So we have a special procedure that we follow versus the published missed approach procedure. Then it also talks about a Cat 2 and 3 auto land, which I'll only do if there's a captain who also lost their quals. And then it talks about, getting around, taxiing around, especially in a 300, and how wide your wings are. But it tells me all the approaches we're doing. So there are no surprises. Again, I was wrong at the beginning of the video. It's ILS 4 right and GPS Yankee 4 right. And then taking off runway 31 left. And that's it. So this is the day before. We'll see how it goes tomorrow. I'm not really concerned about it. Hopefully, I won't be in this situation again where I'll lose my qualifications. I got here partially because I'm junior on the aircraft, and partially because of timing. Many of the trips that are open for reserves are relief pilot trips. There have been some first officer trips, but the way they assign trips, if I'm junior and there's 4 FO flying trips and 3 relief pilot trips, whoever's senior to me gets to pick first. So they all pick the flying trips because they don't want to lose their qualifications for landing. Then I get the relief pilot trips. There have been times where they had a flying trip open, but it was like a flying trip to London or an FB trip to Madrid. I want to go to Madrid, so I'll take the FB relief pilot trip. But going forward, I should be more senior. I should have, I already have like 16 people under me. I should have almost 20 by the end of the year, I think. So I'll have a little bit more, hopefully, choice. And I am brain tired. I'll have a video after this, I think. But I am legal again for 90 days. 3 pilots were in there. One guy been on plane for 6 years. One guy been on plane for a couple years, less than that, I guess. Both LA-based pilots. And so since I had the least time on the airplane, I went last. I was in the sim the whole time, but I sat in the captain seat for the first 2 rides, and then I went in the FO seat, and the FO went in my seat for my ride. I'm glad I didn't go first. But mine was fine. I had 1 firm landing, 1 landing, and 1 very good landing. That was my single engine landing, was really good. But going home now. I was in the sim for 3 hours. It's a lot. All right, the video continues. So I'm going to use Microsoft Flight Sim and the PMDG 777-300 to show you kind of what I did in the sim. I've had lots of people ask me about this aircraft as far as the sim goes. The PMDG 777 is a great aircraft. It's just spoiled by the underlying flight sim, which I think is trash. And I'm waiting for X-Plane to have the Flight Factor 777 up and running. The new one, anyway. Anyways, we took off our runway 31. So I'm doing everything from the captain seat, even though I'm a first officer. I think most people are used to seeing it from the captain seat. Doesn't really matter. But we advanced the thrust levers to 50%, and then we press toga, and then the auto throttles take the takeoff thrust to the proper setting for takeoff. We almost always use a derated takeoff, even when we're empty. It's very, very rare to do a full power takeoff in any jet. It saves fuel, saves wear and tear on the engines, it's quieter, and it's easier on the passenger for passenger comfort as well. So we use the least power we need to take off. So 31 left is a very long runway. Up into the air we go, and again, I hate this sim, so I'm turning the autopilot on right away because I'm trying to show you an approach and not show you how I fly a 777. So in the sim, for my landing sim, we climbed at most 3,000 feet. Why climb higher if we're doing the approach, right? So every single one of us, we just did the departure to a point, and then he gave us vectors over to do the approach to 4 right. On this approach I'm going to show you today, it is the RNAV Yankee approach to runway 4 right. We rarely ever do RNAV approaches, even when I flew the Airbus and other aircraft. Most time we fly somewhere, it's the ILS, or visual approach back up by the ILS. If not, it's an ILS. Difference between an ILS and an RNAV. An ILS, you need power on the ground, yet there's physical boxes on the ground that we're using to communicate with the aircraft to land the aircraft safely. For an RNAV, the airport can have no power at all. RNAV uses GPS, kind of like Google Maps, to safely navigate to the runway and land. Now, in the United States, for my airline, pretty sure for anywhere in the United States, there are no auto lands via RNAV. So if we do an auto land approach, which is pretty rare also, we use an ILS. Now, to set up for the approach, I just go down to the departure arrival page, select arrivals, scroll down, and I'm going to select RNAV Yankee 4 right approach. Now, I'm getting vectors in this approach, right? So I'm going to go ahead and take the initial approach fix, which is Veru, and I'm going to expand that all the way out. Right now, I'm just going to heading right now quickly to heading 220, which is about straight downwind on the approach. So select the Veru. There we go, and you can screw them in and see it's Veru, and then Ebby, and then the runway 2,000 above at Veru, 1,500 above at Ebby, max speed of 170, and then down to Mins. So that is the approach. I'm saying which it out to because I'm at 3,000 and Veru is at 2,000. So on our approach, we have vertical and horizontal guidance. To make sure that I'm within tolerance, I'm putting 125 in my vertical RMP scale. So it reduces my scale from 400 feet down to 125 feet as far as what I'm going to see on the scale. I'm using flaps 25, it's very common on the 777. And there's my speed at the current weight. Auto brakes 3. And that's a general, that's what most people use, auto brakes 3 or none. I like 3. It's comfortable and it's plain slowing down fairly well. Now, this is exactly how I brief and approach in the actual aircraft. I ask their pilots, do you have any threats going into JFK today? They tell me their threats, and then I go forward and I say, okay, this is the RNAV Yankee approach to runway 4 right in JFK. It is dated 24 June 2022. We're going to cross Beirut at 2,000 feet, going to Ebi at 1,500 feet, going on to LNAV VNAV mins of 369. Looking for a PAPI on the left-hand side of the runway. The runway is 8,400 feet long. We're making a left turn off probably at Foxtrot Bravo. In the event of a missed approach, if we can't hear what tower instructions are, we're going to go straight over to Gallo and max speed at 210 till we get there. Then we're going out the Herbo to hold at 4,000 feet. Any questions? And that's the whole brief approach. Of course, in IMC, I would also brief the MSA at 2,900 feet based on the runway 4 right designation. And as far as the notes go, it's really cold. We can have an issue, among other things. Also, the VGSI and RNAV glide path are not coincident, meaning they aren't the same. So if I'm on the RNAV glide path, I might not be lined up with the actual PAPI on the left-hand side of the runway. All that said, let's go shoot the approach. So I'm giving myself a descent from 3,000 down to 2,000 feet to be at 2,000 feet at the initial approach fix, which is Veru. Once I'm down toward 2,000 feet, I'll go ahead and give myself a direct to Veru. Now, again, in real life, they can give me vectors, or because it's RNAV, I can go straight to that fix, right? And as long as it works out with my planning, there is no issue. 777, you use the line select key to put where you want to go to on the top left-hand side. You hit execute, and then, of course, you have to press the LNAV button. That's one perk of the Airbus. Once you hit execute, it goes to the LNAV automatically. But I am a 777 pilot now. Now that we're headed toward Veru, I engage VNAV. I'm going to go ahead and slow down. And again, when I push VNAV on, it closed my speed window and sped up to 240 knots. That's what it's programmed to do. So push VNAV, I had to push the speed knob again to open it up to manually select my speed. Now with VNAV, it's going to honor any altitude that are in the FMS. So right now it's 2,000 feet at or above and 1,500 feet at or above. My mins for this approach are 369 feet. So I can go ahead and put in 369 into my altitude window, and the plane will honor all the altitudes, including, again, the 2,000 and 1,500 feet. So I'm going to zoom in over here. I'm going to go from 1,000 feet over to auto. That puts it in 100 foot increments. Scroll on down, and magically, it stops at 370, not 369. 1 foot will not make a difference. If I need 1 feet to shoot the approach, I have other issues going on. All right, so now we're going direct to Veru, 2,000 feet. Life is good. I'm at flaps 5, 200 knots, and we're headed toward the the Veru fix at 2,000 feet. So flaps 15, 200 knots is a good speed, and that's probably what we do in real life as far as what we're shooting. Now, on the 777, you only slow down to what your flaps can hold. So if you look on the left-hand side of speed tape, right now you see a 1 and a 5. I can slow down to either one of those speeds, right? So I can slow down to about 183 knots, and that's what a flaps 5 can hold at my current weight and aircraft configuration. You don't ever slow below that. So if right now they ask me to do 170, I would need to have more flaps out to be able to support that speed. But right now we're fine at 200 knots, headed toward the Veru intersection. When I get a little closer, then the plane will start descending after passing Veru. Because again, it's 2,000 feet or above. I'm already at 2,000 feet. The plane will not start descending until it gets to the point where it's happy that it can start descending from 2,000 feet, cross the Ebi intersection at or above 1,500 feet, and go down to 370. It wants to have one continuous descent. Now, in previous aircraft, like the CRJ 700 that I flew in Red 145, we didn't have VNAV. So we'd have to go at 2,000 feet right now, dive down at 1,500 feet, level off, and then our final altitude for this approach would be 570 and not 370 because we don't have VNAV, and we have to have some protections in there because it's an MDA and not a DA. But as you can see, we're going straight toward Ebi, and the plane will start descending here. If you look on the right side of the ND, you'll see a little magenta diamond that's slowly coming down. That is the proper glide path. So right now I'm under the proper glide path. So again, life is good. I'm not too high. Once I get a little bit closer to Ebi, I will begin slowing down. again, in order to slow down below about 183 knots, that's where the flaps 5 indication is, I'll need to put more flaps out. So before I slow down, I need to put out flaps 15, then I can slow down more below that speed. So I'm going to go ahead and put in about 183 knots or so, a little bit below, but again, I'm doing this, I'm narrating this after the fact. But I'll go ahead and put out flaps 15, and then you'll see the 15 appear on the left-hand side of the speed tape. And at that point, I can slow down below 180 knots. If you slow down too much, you don't want to go slower than the current aircraft configuration can hold. Here comes my glide path right there, and now it'll start following the glide path down. Again, it is a little bit slow to react, and that's how the real plane is. There's my flaps 15, so I can start slowing down more. And from here on out, it's all automated. Now, once I get 300 feet or more below my current altitude of 2,000 feet, I can go ahead and put in my missed approach altitude. Right now, I'm arming my speed brakes, and on this approach, the mist is 4,000 feet. So I'm gonna go ahead and slow down more and get dirty, and then I would ask the co-pilot to go ahead and put in, I would say, set missed approach altitude. I don't tell them what it is, 'cause I don't want to tell them the wrong thing. I want them to put the altitude up that they believe it is, and I'll confirm it that it is indeed 4,000 feet. So I'm gonna go ahead and go back to 1,000 foot increments and set 4,000. Again, the plane's not gonna capture 4,000 right now. It's to keep going down to the actual mins for the approach. Everything is now done. I have flaps 25 out, and the non-flying pilot will be looking outside for the runway environment. Again, in order to go below 370, we have to have the approach lights, the runway surface, something allowing us to go below that altitude. This approach, it was, they didn't have it bare mins. It's in all my career, I've gone down to actual mins on this kind of approach maybe 3 or 4 times. Most of the time, weather is pretty darn good. But we'll be looking outside, and once we see the runway in sight, we'll say continuing, meaning we're going to continue below 370 and land the aircraft. I will not be landing this aircraft right now because I made a mistake in my setup, so I couldn't take over, but that is how the approach would work. So that was just one of the approaches I did. In the sim, I got lucky that I got to see everything twice. So one FO went, I was in the captain's seat, and then he headed home. He had to commute home. And then the next FO went, I was in the captain's seat, and then we swapped seats. He was in the captain's seat, I was in the FO seat, obviously. So being able to see it, kind of nice, because again, I didn't fly very much before, right? And so being able to see the normal pace of things and yada 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 helped me go through it a little bit easier. Funny thing happened though when I was done with my ride. I told the check airman, all right, that was fun. Hopefully I won't see you anytime soon. He went, all right, Darren, good job. I'll see you in 90 days. Because he kind of assumes that I am so junior that I will probably not land 3 times in the next 90 days. But maybe I will. We'll have to see. Again, the more senior I get, the more opportunity I have to pick my trips that are flying trips versus relief pilot trips. And as far as the PMDG 777 goes, it's a great aircraft. I just don't like flight sim very much. Microsoft Flight Sim very much. So I am waiting for Flight Factor 777 V2 to be out of alpha and be more usable. With X-Plane, I can easily set up a scenario, rewind, play. Microsoft Flight Sim, you need too many add-ons to do that, and I don't really have time to do and learn the whole thing. Especially the camera system is not as good either. Different kind of video for me. Hope you enjoyed it. Questions, drop them in the comments. You can also message me on Instagram. As always, have an absolutely wonderful day, and thank you for stopping by.